everyone, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. Settle in because this one matters. We're talking about something almost every driver buys, almost nobody studies, and way too many people misunderstand. Motor oil, or specifically, the brands that say full synthetic on the bottle. While the chemistry behind that label is a lot murkier than most people realize. And I didn't want to do this as another loud shelf ranking rant. I wanted a real conversation, the kind you'd have with the one person in the garage who actually reads the data sheet before opening the drain plug. Joining me today is a tribology specialist, the kind of Maya Chen who can translate oil chemistry into plain English and tell you whether that cheap jug is actually saving money or quietly setting you up for a much bigger repair later. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. And honestly, this is one of those topics where the shelf label sounds simple, but once you peel it back, you realize the customer and the chemistry are not always having the same conversation.
That's exactly why I wanted you on, because the phrase fake full synthetic gets thrown around all the time. And some people hear that and think, wait, are these oils counterfeit? Or are they dangerous? Are engines blowing up? So let's clear the air right away. When we say fake full synthetic, what are we actually talking about?
We're usually not talking about counterfeit oil. We're talking about a bottle that says full synthetic, which makes normal people picture a fluid that was built from the ground up in a lab. But in many cases, that oil is still based heavily on highly refined petroleum, usually grouped the third base oil, not a more traditional pale-heavy synthetic formula. The bottle is legal. The product may perform just fine. But the label creates a picture in the buyer's mind that is a lot cleaner than the real chemistry.
The problem is not always that the oil is junk. The problem is that the story on the front of the bottle and the chemistry inside the bottle are not the same story.
Exactly. And that difference matters because people don't buy oil as chemistry. They buy confidence. They buy longer drain intervals. They buy peace of mind. They buy the feeling that they're doing something premium for the engine. If the label makes you think every full synthetic is basically the same tier, that's where the money mistake starts.
And that money mistake is sneaky because it doesn't hit the same day you buy the oil. Somebody pours it in, starts the engine, and here's the soundtrack of bad decisions.
Right. The cost shows up later. It shows up when the oil spends months dealing with fuel dilution, repeated cold starts, stop-and-go traffic, hot shutdowns, and long drain intervals. That's when the base stock and additive package stop being trivia and start becoming repair bills.
Of course, let's name names. Which brands usually get pulled into this conversation when people talk about fake full synthetic claims?
The usual shelf suspects are Castrol EDG, Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic, Quaker State Full Synthetic, Pennzoil Platinum, Supertech Full Synthetic, STP Full Synthetic, Napa Full Synthetic, and Maple Full Synthetic products that vary a bit by store and product line. Now, I want to be careful here. Mentioning them in this conversation does not mean they all fail or that they're dangerous. It means they often get discussed because the label language is broad, while the base oil reality underneath that label can be more complicated.
And this is where people start getting defensive because they'll say, my truck ran fine on that stuff for 150,000 miles.
And maybe it did. That's the part that confuses people. And oil can be good enough for a lot of engines and still be marketed in a way that oversells what it is. Those are not opposites. A mainstream hydrocrack Group the Third oil can protect a lightly stressed commuter engine perfectly well when it's changed on time. But that does not mean the term full synthetic tells you enough about what margin for abuse you actually bought.
Margin for abuse. That's such a good phrase because that's really what people are paying for, whether they realize it or not.
That's the whole game. Oil is the only thing separating moving metal from moving metal. When that oil film gets weak, you're not talking about some vague concept called wear. You're talking about scuffing on startup. You're talking about timing chain stretch. You're talking about ring deposits. You're talking about coke turbo bearings. You're talking about surface fatigue building one heat cycle at a time.
Where none of those failures announce themselves as, hey, you should have spent $10 more on a better oil.
Never. They show up as oil consumption, varnish, chain noise, stuck oil control rings, PCV complaints, a rough idle that gets blamed on something else. That's why a cheap oil change can turn into a very expensive idea later. The illusion of savings is powerful.
Let's talk about that illusion, because I think this is where most drivers get trapped, where I see two jugs on a shelf. Both say full synthetic, one is much cheaper, and the cheaper one feels like the smart buy.
It feels smart because the labels suggest the products belong to the same class, but they may not age the same way in your engine. One oil may hold grade better after repeated heat cycles. One may resist oxidation better. One may have lower volatility, which means less of the light fraction boils away under heat. One may keep ring lands cleaner. One may control deposits better around a turbo. That difference won't always show up during the first 1,000 miles. It shows up when life gets ugly.
So this is the lab versus street issue. On paper, a lot of oils can pass the required tests, but actual commuting is chaos.
That's right. In a controlled test, the conditions are standardized, useful, necessary, but not the same as real ownership. Real life is short trips in winter, fuel wash, heavy traffic in July, missed maintenance, a lazy thermostat, lots of idling, and a driver who thinks synthetic means they can forget about the engine for 10,000 miles. The lab asks whether the oil can pass. The street asks how quickly it loses its edge once the routine stops being polite.
When people hear that, they sometimes think this means shelf oils are worthless unless they're boutique racing blends.
Not at all. This is not about turning every oil change into a chemistry thesis. It's about matching the oil to the failure risk. A naturally aspirated commuter with steady highway use and sensible change intervals can do perfectly fine on many mainstream full synthetics, even if the base oil is mostly Group III. That same label means a lot less in a turbocharged direct-injected engine that runs short trips, sees fuel dilution, and cooks the oil after repeated hot shutdowns.
To the real adult question is not which full synthetic is best. It's what is my engine hard on?
Exactly. If your engine is hard on timing chains, viscosity retention matters. If it's hard on ring cleanliness, deposit control matters. If it's high mileage and starting to seep, seal conditioning might matter more than trendy branding. It's turbocharged, oxidation resistance and coking control move way up the list. Same aisle, totally different buying logic.
Brett, brings me to something I hear all the time. If it meets spec, who cares?
That line is half true, which makes it dangerous. Meeting spec matters. It means the oil clears a minimum bar. But a minimum bar is not the same as the same safety margin in severe service. Two oils can both satisfy the printed requirement and still behave differently once they're stressed by heat, fuel dilution, or extended drain intervals. That difference matters a lot more after 80,000 miles than it does on a fresh engine under gentle use.
And this is where oil analysis enters the chat.
Used oil analysis is one of the few things that cuts through the marketing fog. Blackstone and other labs have shown something important over the years. With one clean sample, many mainstream oils can look surprisingly similar. That's a useful reality check. It keeps people from turning oil into a religion. But the real value is in trends. Viscosity change, contamination, fuel dilution, insolubles were patterns over time. One report is a snapshot. Several reports are a movie. That movie tells you whether your chosen oil is actually coping with your engine and your routine.
And then you've got guys like Lake Speed Jr., who keep bringing the conversation back to actual tribology instead of shelf mythology.
That's why his work gets attention. He keeps saying the same basic thing in different ways. Base oils matter, additive packages matter, and application matters most. The front label is not enough. A stronger base stock can help with oxidation resistance and volatility. A better additive package can help with anti-wear protection and deposit control. But if you only shop by the phrase full synthetic, you're compressing a very wide range of chemistry into one comforting little phrase.
Let me put this in normal driver language. It's like buying two winter jackets that both say cold weather on the tag. One is fine for a quick walk from the parking lot. The other can handle a long night outside. Same label family. Very different pain tolerance.
That's a good analogy. I'd use honey and water for viscosity in cold weather too. Some oils move to critical parts faster when cold. Stay stable better when hot. Some leave fewer ugly leftovers behind as they age. And your engine notices all of it, even if the bottle keeps talking like this is all one big happy synthetic club.
Where someone is standing in the aisle right now, overwhelmed, what should they stop doing immediately?
Stop assuming the words full synthetic are the final answer. They're not. Start asking different questions. How do you drive? Short trips or highway? Naturally aspirated or turbo? Direct injection? High mileage or low mileage? Are you trying to stretch intervals? Are you already seeing consumption? Is there chain noise on cold start? Once you ask those questions, you stop buying shelf language and start buying protection.
I want to throw two questions to the audience here, because this really depends on your setup. First, what engine are you running? How many miles are on it? And are you doing mostly short trips or real highway miles? Or second, have you noticed the milkshake under your oil cap yet? Or are you dealing with plain condensation, fuel dilution, or something worse and lumping them all together?
Those details matter a lot. A person with a clean running commuter and disciplined oil changes may never feel the difference between several mainstream full synthetics. A person with a turbocharged GDI engine, lots of idling, and stretched intervals may feel that difference in the form of deposits, consumption, and wear long before they connect it back to the oil.
And that's the part I wish more people understood. This is not about being snobby. It's not about spending the most money just to feel serious. It's about total cost of ownership. Spend a little more where it matters, or spend a lot more later where it hurts.
That's the heart of it. The scam is not always that the oil is bad. The scam is the blurred definition. The scam is how the label makes very different recipes look morally equal. The scam is the confidence that label sells to drivers who think all synthetics can survive the same interval, the same abuse, and the same heat.
Let's land this cleanly. Where a bottle says full synthetic, but the formula is still built largely around heavily refined petroleum-based stocks, then the average person is not crazy for feeling misled by that wording.
Not crazy at all. The phrase creates an image that can be a lot richer than the chemistry underneath. That doesn't make every one of those oils useless. It does mean the label alone is a poor buying tool, especially if your engine lives a hard life.
Ren, here's the verdict. A lot of these oils are usable. Some are perfectly fine in the right application. But if you shop by the phrase full synthetic and nothing else, you're flying blind. Buy for the abuse your engine sees, not the fantasy the front label sells.
That's the smartest way to say it. Match the oil to the failure mode, match the chemistry to the stress, and never confuse a legal label with a complete story.
That's a great place to leave it. Thanks again for coming on and helping sort marketing from mechanics.
Anytime. This stuff matters more than people think.
And one last thought before we go. Even if you finally get the oil choice right, that doesn't mean the engine is out of trouble. Because in a lot of direct injected engines, the next fight is already building on the backside of the intake valves. carbon, heat, airflow loss, rough idle. That's a whole different mess, and we need to talk about it next.